Thank you for joining us on this edition of the news on Equinoxe television, broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bablo Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, tens of persons severely injured in a deadly accident at La Falaise in the west region of the Republic of Cameroon are responding to treatment in hospital. The accident's death toll now stands at 53 persons who died in that deadly incident recorded earlier today in the west region of the country. Now out of Cameroon, Ghanaians and 2 African heads of states, as well as representatives from the United Nations and the African Union, have paid their last respects to former Ghanaian President Jerry John Rawlings, who was laid to rest earlier today in Accra, Ghana. 53 persons have died and over 29 others severely wounded in a road accident recorded at La Falaise in the Menua Division West region of the Republic of Cameroon. The accident involved a 70-seater bus of Menua Voyage Inter-Urban Transport Agency and a truck. A head-on collision led to the death of tens of persons. Details in this report by Fomi Sanda.
At the time of the visit of the West Regional Governor, our Fonka Augustine, 53 persons were confirmed dead, with 29 others severely wounded. The governor, in an interview, revealed that the 53 persons were all burned, some beyond recognition, and the 29 others still breathing and rushed to the district hospital in Chang, severely wounded. The accident, according to local sources, resulted from a collision between a Mercedes truck immatriculated under the number 485 CN and a 70-seater interurban transport bus of the Menua Voyage Interurban Transport Agency, registered under the number 954 IX. The truck transporting gasoline was heading towards Sancho from Chang, while the 70-seater interurban transport bus, which left the city of Douala, was driving to Chang from Sancho. A collision at La Falaise that also provoked a fire incident from the transported petroleum product, leaving 55 persons dead. Preliminary investigations say the truck had a brake failure. The truck driver is yet to be clearly identified, but the truck reportedly had a custom officer and a gendarmerie officer on board.
Reporting there, and the governor of the West region, our Franco Augustine, spoke to the press shortly after that incident. He was on the scene of the accident and he highlights some details on the ground.
About 3:30 a.m. this morning, there was a head-on collision between a 70-seater bus belonging to Menua Voyage, coming from Douala heading towards Chang, as well as a mini truck that was carrying fuel heading towards the opposite direction. As a result, both vehicles caught fire, and as at now, we've registered 53 dead and 29 persons seriously wounded with second-degree burns. They have respectively been carried to the regional hospital in Bafoussam as well as the district hospital in Chang for the wounded, and for those who are dead, they are not identified because given the circumstances, they were all burnt. I want to think that first of all, around this area at about 3 a.m. It's cloudy, and secondly, found out that with the mini truck, it had a problem of brake failure.
Thank you very much.
Administrative authorities of the Indian division in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon have been challenged to effectively play their role in the efforts to restore peace and normalcy in that part of the country, and also to stop the spread of the coronavirus in that part of the country. The call was made during meeting there in the Indian division, and of course call came as kids in the bushes are also being urged to leave the bushes and come back to the normal life trend and be integrated in the DDR centers, the disarmament, demobilization and reintegration centers created by the President of the Republic to receive the ex-fighters. Details in this report by Derek Jato.
Nous venons de démanteler un campement en bas.
Indian Division, Southwest Region, and as the government intensified the operation Put Down Your Arms, come out of the bushes and be reintegrated into the society, or be forced out, the administrative authorities in this maritime division are begging these local authorities to advise their children still carrying arms against the state to choose the first option, for opportunities awaiting them today in the society are plenty. And Fowan Lawrence, the senior divisional officer from Indian Division, is in a meeting with all the mayors, drawn from all the 9 subdivisions that make up Indian Division, during which the executive officer reiterated on that point for a better 2021, free of separatist fighters' activities in his division. Then, the COVID-19.
We intend in the days ahead, especially with the money that the Mindebel has put at our disposal, 5 million and 11.6 million for divisional headquarter councils. We intend to use that money to fight the spread of the COVID-19 Indian division.
And the government's relentless strives to defeat the pandemic was also top on the table.
During the meeting, the senior divisional officer made them to know the purpose of these funds, and that these funds should be scrupulously used as prescribed by the Minister of Decentralization.
And the outcome of the working session was qualified as positive.
We have taken an oath that Indiana will always remain the only division free of COVID. We are here to save and not to be safe. The mayors on their own to save, to put all their expertise at the disposal of those who elected them into office.
This division that is hosting palm oil plantation is one of the areas seriously hit by the war in the region.
From the Indian division to the northwest regional capital Bamenda, where 2 explosions were recorded today, and the explosions occurred at the Ademeda neighborhood. Our correspondent in Bamenda, Stella, files in details.
This broken covert is the legacy, the double explosion of an improvised explosive device, also known as IED, left this morning at the Ademeta neighborhood in Bamenda 2 subdivision. Nearby shop owners were about opening up their businesses while children were rushing to their respective schools. A loud noise is heard. 2 explosives planted on both sides of the roads went out, producing loud noise heard across neighborhoods in Bamenda. For fear of what may happen, this witness spoke to Equinoxe television on the basis of anonymity.
Well, we came this morning and we saw the separatist fighters came and planted 2 explosives. So we came this morning and saw everything scattered. So everybody was scared because the sound was really loud. There were no casualties.
Improvised explosive devices have been used in the Northwest region since early 2018. They are mounted on the roadside by suspected pro-independent fighters to ambush convoys of forces of defense and security in what is known as the battle for the restoration of their statehood. Attacks by explosives have not only been bloody, but deadly. Iron bars like these ones on the scene of the Ademeta double explosion are most often used. They have damaging effects when they hit humans. Lives have been lost as a consequence.
The manager of a popular event hall in the city of Douala describes his landlord's decision to annul a 10-year contract before the initial expiry date as a conspiracy against his business, and the entrance into the said event hall has been blocked by a group of women protesting against what they consider as the violation of the rights of the community hosting that center. Details with Immaculate Fobe.
Women dressed in black blocking the entrance of a popular event hall in the city of Douala. The women are calling for the departure of Joseph Siwe, manager of Douala Bercy. His landlord Maswa has forcefully annulled a contract which gave him control over the hall for 10 years, a move condemned by the manager.
This is a conspiracy. They are trying to destroy my name and business at all costs. The worst thing about it is that a couple was denied access into the hall on their wedding day. It is terrible. The same scenario took place in the month of December.
According to the manager, the sum of 33 million francs Cfa had been given to his landlord and was due to expire at the end of the month of January.
Contrary to information circulating on social media, Mr. Siwe is not owing a dime. This is a conspiracy against his business. We are going to take the matter to court.
All efforts made to get the view of the landlord Maswa were fruitless.
Immaculate Fogwe reporting there. Now we're going to take you to news out of the country. Ghanaians and sympathizers from the United Nations Organization and the African Union, including Liberian President George Weah and Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, paid the last respect to former Ghanaian President Jerry John Rawlings today. And of course, the retired Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings' solemn funeral ceremony took place at Black Star Square in Accra. The former president died on the 12th of November 2020 after a short illness at the age of 73. Jerry Rawlings' corpse was laid in state for 3 days, and hundreds of people went to pay their last respect to the fallen statesman. He was finally laid to rest in the military cemetery in Accra earlier today, and tributes after tribute. He was described as a selfless and committed leader who worked for the common good of his country. Jerry Rawlings is credited for stabilizing the country's democracy. He led his country in a military government for over 10 years before returning the West African nation to multi-party democracy in 1992. Now in sports, last group matches at the ongoing African Nations Championship will be played this Wednesday at 8 p.m. at the Limbe Sports Stadium in the southwest region of Cameroon. Namibia will take on Zambia, while at the same time in the Douala, the Reunification Stadium, Guinea will play against Tanzania. Guinea and Zambia, who count 4 points each, are sure to sail through to the next phase of the competition. On Tuesday, Morocco and Rwanda sealed their places at the quarterfinals. Smart Njikangebre watched the two matches and now reports.
total of 12 goals were scored on the last playing day in Group C of the competition. Here at the Bepanda Omnisport Stadium, the supporters of the Junior Atlas Lions went home happy after the team scored the highest number of goals this far in the competition. We had 5 goals for Morocco against 2 for their opponents of the day, Uganda, which tells us that the black cloud that has been hovering on Uganda in their previous editions at the African Nations Championship continued with them out here in Cameroon. It was a very bad day for Jonathan McKinstry, who was insisting that since the goal line technology has already been introduced into the competition, he did not see any reason why that goal line technology was not used in the group stage of the competition. For him, he believes that if the goal line technology was brought into the competition from the first day, many errors would have been found in their game against Morocco. But at the end of the day, they will be going back home again at the group stage, just like in their previous 4 editions of the competition. At the same time that the game was playing here at the Bepanda Reunification Stadium, the same Group C encounter was taking place at the Kmer field, and out there it was Togo newcomers who fought, but they didn't fight right up to the end as they were eliminated in their first participation at the group stage of the African Nations Championship. They were beaten by Rwanda 3 goals to 2, and at the end of the day in the Group C of the competition, Morocco remains top with 7 points. We have Rwanda that is coming with 5 points, and Togo on the 3rd spot with 3 points, and the last from the bottom is Uganda. The Group C of the competition, we have Morocco that maintain the top spot in this group, and Rwanda that follows suit on the 2nd spot. They will know their opponents when Group D encounters will take place on Wednesday, and here at the Bepanda Omnisport Stadium we shall be having Tanzania that will take on Guinea at the Bepanda Omnisport Stadium at 8 p.m. Wednesday, and at the Limbe Ngeme Stadium Namibia are expected to clash against Zambia. And Zambia, before their game this evening at the Ngeme Stadium, they were at Jonchi, where the Zambian team went to ask for God's blessing as they descend to the pitch later on in the evening against Namibia. At the Bepanda Omnisport Stadium, Raoul Tabufoe, Smart Njikan Gabriel for Equinoxe TV News.
Thank you, Smart Njikan Gabriel. Now let's listen to the coach of Uganda, who talks about the fact that the video assistance referee is not being used in the group stage of the competition.
Look, obviously we knew the rules coming into the tournament. And we were told that VAR would be used from the quarterfinals onwards. Obviously at the Senior African Cup of Nations it's used throughout. Now if it's used from the quarterfinals onwards, that must mean the stadiums are equipped to use the technology already. You know, I can't imagine they're just going to buy the technology tonight and install it in the stadium for a quarterfinal in 4 days' time. So, but look, we knew the rules before the tournament started. We signed up to those rules, but I definitely think if the technology is there and it's being used in the latter stages of the tournament, you know, it would be interesting to know the rationale for not using it in the early stages of the tournament. But we knew it wasn't there, so we can't really complain about it. But I think in future editions, then if the technology is already being installed in the stadiums, then maybe use it from match day 1.
That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us. We are receiving a civil society leader, David Senate. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jonathan. Nice to be here.
All right. First of all, your reaction to the series of explosions recorded in the 2 English-speaking regions within the context of the crisis. The last in Bamenda in the Ademita neighborhood. 2 explosions recorded today.
Yeah, my reaction is one of shock, but I think it's becoming more and more frequent, and it's one has the feeling that it will only increase because nothing is being done to address the situation. Nobody is giving up. Nobody is letting up, whether it's on the part of the Amber Boys or the military. There are no talks going anywhere, and I don't know what they're waiting for. But Jonathan, I have a feeling that things might get far worse than we are seeing today. And the economic situation in the country is not helping. There's a lot of joblessness. People have nothing to do. And the call for this kind of activity just grows.
You said nothing is being done to solve the problems in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. What do you make of the special status that is being put in place with the House of Chiefs and the regional assemblies coming into play, and the military effort on the ground?
That clearly is laughable. That is not what the Anglophones are expecting. And I say this sincerely. I say there is somebody who wants a solution to be found. We don't want some papering, some second-hand type of thing. This is not what they are expecting. And we need to be serious. The government needs to be serious. There are people in the government. There are people in Bamenda, in West, the southern Cameroon, as they say, who know how these things can be solved. Why are they not being invited? They needn't be invited openly. Let them talk to them privately and let them propose what can be done. I think all that is happening, from my way of seeing it, is that they're just waiting and hope that the situation will wear itself out. But it clearly is not. And even if it wears out in this manner, it's not going to be fixed. That's not what we want.
There's need for a sustainable solution to the situation.
Dialogue. We need to dialogue. The problem is simple. It's just a reunification, as I say, a getting together of the two states that has gone bad. That's where we need to go and repair the situation. There is no way of just patching up the cracks and thinking that something is going on. It's not.
All right, to the west region of the country now, in the Menua Division, 53 persons killed in a road accident at Paris.
First of all, let me extend my condolences to the bereaved. It's very sad indeed. And one can only think it can be avoidable. We have spoken so much about the state of our roads, the state of our vehicles, the state of the drivers, and so on, and yet things are not changing. It's clear to me that we're not doing enough, and that maybe we need to try something else. One of the things that I find unacceptable is this so-called investigations are being carried out to see what happened. I think Parliament should get to a point where they come out with a law that every one of these accidents is investigated and a report given out. We should not investigate only with the purpose of punishing. We investigate mainly for the purpose of learning, from finding out what happened, and prevention. So there should be some statutory requirements that every accident must be thoroughly investigated. And to that end, a bureau can be set up, a bureau of accidents investigation, where the people are mandated to produce their reports. And this report should be put somewhere, maybe on the website of the Ministry of Transport, or whichever organization of the government that takes responsibility for it, so that people can consult it for the purpose of learning to prevent, so that it doesn't happen again. It becomes so common now.
That particular area referred to as La Falaise is has recorded a series of accidents already.
Yeah.
One of the last accidents that occurred there before this one killed 22 persons and left about 82 persons severely injured. That was the 13th, Saturday, 13th of February 2018. Now, when an accident is occurring somewhere, repeating with a huge number of deaths like this, what explains that? What can possibly explain that it happens first time, a second time, and then again and again?
Again, there is one of the probable reasons why it happens again and again. The simple is that no investigation is made, so no report is given where they can clearly say what happened. The road might be not properly designed. The signalization might not possibly be visible to everybody, because a head-on collision tells me that probably people didn't realize on what side of the road they were supposed to be. Okay, in the middle of the night, one can also suppose that the drivers were not in a fit, or one of the drivers might not have been in a fit condition to drive, or he might have been in a fit condition to drive, but at that point he couldn't control his vehicle because he lost the brakes. So what is the state of the vehicle? Again, these are things that should be investigated thoroughly and published so that it can be advertised. That Falaise in particular, it's a road we all use, especially those of us on the northwest, time and time again. When you get there, you really know that this is not an easy thing to negotiate.
And another issue there is the extremely meandering nature of the road in that area. The road is very meandering.
Yeah, it's very windy. Chang is up on a hill. We need to go up there. And for those of us, again, as I say, who travel to Bamenda, it cuts the journey to Bamenda, especially at the beginning, by 1 whole hour. And that's really a great relief. So the temptation to go through there rather than going through Batié, which is also not an easy route to negotiate, the temptation to go through Chang is always there. And we've done it. Thousands, millions of vehicles have done it. But the point is, we should get to a point where we do it every time safely. So let's look at the condition of the road. Let's make sure the correct markings are. Let's make sure that the drivers are in good condition, the vehicles are in good condition. And the only way we can do it is by investigating these reports and coming out with resolution.
Traveling from here to the west region of the country, there is an observation as far as road signs are concerned, which you indicated the marks on the tar and the road signs along the road are completely absent from covering several kilometers, along several kilometers of the highway between Douala and Bafoussam. There are no road signs there.
That's so true. And I don't know whether our so-called desalinization would help that situation, in the sense that the road signs, the road maintenance and so on can be decentralized so that the local communities take care of it. I doubt that is something that will happen tomorrow. But you are right. The signage is poor. They are all broken down. They have been knocked down. Something has to be done.
What's the problem here? Is it an issue of management, an issue of rehabilitation, maintenance? Because even the road itself, the lines that are supposed to be at the middle and at the corners of the road are not there.
It's all of that, and the lack of a culture. We don't have a culture for the proper thing. We've gone and copied things somewhere else, transposed it to our own part of the world, and we are not using it like the other people. Because in England, in America, those roads are supervised, are taken care of virtually on a daily basis. You know, when a signboard falls, the very next day it is put up again. It looks expensive, but what's the cost of a life? But here, it goes on for years. There are crash barriers, safety barriers on bridges that are no longer there. They've been gone since. If you come down, you're not aware, and it's in the night, you find yourself in the river. Who is responsible for that? Why is it not being called up? Again, as I said, this thing should be looked into a report brought out, not again with the notion of punishing somebody, but educating. I think maybe the fear of punishment makes people not bother.
But there's also the problem of indiscipline on the part of drivers. Most of the accidents, some of the accidents that occurred recently before this one, government authorities were highlighting human errors to a greater percentage to have caused the accident.
But again, that's very true. The state of the drivers, the salary they earn, especially with these 70-seater buses, the desire to make as much trips as possible to earn more money, it all comes into play.
And there is a question that comes up from the figures, the statistics of the accident. The governor said 53 persons died on the spot. They were burnt to death, and then 29 were taken to the hospital. These are persons who were severely injured in the accident. Now, a 70-seater bus, 53 and 29. That takes us to a figure beyond or above 70.
Was he talking of both vehicles? Because I know the others wouldn't have a lot of people.
Yeah, the other vehicle was just a truck transporting some fuel and so on.
But Babila, if you've done a trip on the 70-seater buses, the figure of people inside is not 70. There are people sitting on the stairs, there are some standing in the corridor, and one time I got sufficiently concerned to query the driver who was driving us, and he said that was the only way they were going to make the difference in their salary. And this is known by the whole management. And there are passengers who know that to go to Yaoundé, you pay 3,000 at the bus, at the agency, but along the way, 2,000. So you go and wait, and
so there's an issue of financial constraints, the precarious salary situation of some of the drivers, and there's also an issue of mentality, because the people who stand along the way, they know that we're not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah. Everybody it's a game in which everybody plays until you lose somebody, or until you lose their life. Well, if you lose your life, maybe you will not feel so bad because you are gone. But if you get maimed, if you got burnt and you are still alive, is it worth it for the rest of your life to be in that state? It's a mentality, but that mentality can be changed. We can be taught to behave.
In your opinion, what are some of the urgent measures that government should take to limit deaths and accidents recorded on our highways?
I think the government have sufficient rules. It's a question of applying them honestly, seriously, and all the time. When an accident like this happens, the agencies will call up, they will sit up, they will watch their drivers. The drivers will watch themselves. And then after that, and when I say after that, we're talking of almost immediately.
Right, government should be able to take some necessary action with the resources at their disposal in order to limit these accidents on our highways.
We do have the resources if we don't embezzle them, if we don't swindle them. And if the people who are given the resources to carry out the jobs are held accountable, things might just improve.
Right, transparency and accountability in governance. Thanks, David Sunate, for joining us today.
Thank you, Babila.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe comes up next with Serge Leonard.